By definition, a sentinel animal is used as an early warning system for hazards or diseases. Think like a canary in a coal mine, as one of the most famous examples. Down in Charlotte County, Florida, it's chickens that are stepping up for the community in what can only be described as the ideal sentinel chicken program. Here's Beth Kovacs to explain more. She's a biological specialist with Charlotte County, where she focuses on mosquito and aquatic weed control within the Public Works Department.
We have 3 primary viruses that we're looking for, which is West Nile virus, Eastern equine encephalitis, and St. Louis encephalitis. Chickens actually do not become ill from these viruses. They develop antibodies. That means they cannot pass the virus on. They have decent-sized veins for drawing a blood sample from. Obviously, they don't become sick. They make great sentinel animals for those reasons.
The Sentinel Chicken program in Charlotte County is a vital link between public works and public health, acting as an early warning system for mosquito-borne diseases before they can reach the human community. Here's Jeff Profit. He's a colleague with Beth and serves as the operations supervisor for the Mosquito and Aquatic Weed Control Division with Charlotte County.
It's all part of the program that we use to conduct surveillance and determine where their potential diseases may be. We've been doing it here quite a while.
Beyond their role in public health, the chickens have become a fan favorite for community engagement. And in case you were wondering, yes, their eggs are safe to eat.
We actually use what we call chicken cooperators, which are citizens who agree to take part in the program. So we provide the chickens, the coop, the food, and in exchange, they take care of the chickens for us. They get to keep the eggs, they keep an eye on the birds, they get to live as happy chickens.
While chickens save the day in Charlotte County, it's goats in Greenville, South Carolina that are promoting environmental sustainability and safety. Not to mention, they've also become quite the popular attraction around town and on social media. Goats are showing up in Greenville as a true win-win when it comes to promoting sustainability, safety, and cutting down on noise pollution and emissions. There's even a little public relations benefit mixed in, as goats get called in to reach vegetation in hard-to-reach places that would be a safety concern for their human counterparts. Let's check in with Stacy Schaefer to learn more. She's a Parks and Grounds Administrator with the City of Greenville in South Carolina.
We have those opportunities for natural methods that are sustainable and that isn't putting chemicals or non-environmentally friendly options. I think that's always a big plus and a big win. Getting staff into some of these locations to do the removal. Yeah, we have snakes out there. We have a lot of wasp nests, a lot of bees, and things that the staff can encounter that the goats don't seem to have the same issues with. They have almost no methane. And everything that they produce for waste is actually perfect fertilizer for us. So it was literally a win-win across the board. Your social media crews, your marketing team, your communications teams, they love it. City councils love a photo op, and that's always going to be a win-win too. The return of investment is there. We had so many people come out, and they actually had little goat watch parties. They would just come out with their camp chairs, park, and sit and watch the goats, and it was amazing.
Welcome back to Public Works Radio, the official voice of the American Public Works Association. This week, we're talking grazing goats, chickens as public health heroes, and so much more. It's really a fun one. So let's jump in now. Here's my conversation with Beth, Jeff, and Stacy. What is a Sentinel Chicken program?
So basically, they are chickens that are strategically placed around the county in coops at set locations. And what we do is we draw a small blood sample from them once a week to check for the presence of mosquito-borne viruses. So it's kind of the canary in the coal mine, so to speak.
Why chickens?
So first and foremost, chickens actually do not become ill from these viruses. They develop antibodies. So that's important because that means they cannot pass the virus on. A lot of these viruses are spread by birds, but a chicken is a dead end host. So the virus stops with them. The reason chickens are used is because they're very easy to handle. They have decent sized veins for drawing a blood sample from. Obviously, they don't become sick. They make great sentinel animals for those reasons.
What specific diseases are y'all monitoring for with these chickens?
We have 3 primary viruses that we're looking for, which is West Nile virus, Eastern equine encephalitis, and St. Louis encephalitis.
If you find a higher level of West Nile virus in these chickens than you would expect, what's next? What does the public works and public health apparatus do after that?
As soon as a chicken pops positive or shows signs of this disease or the antibodies to it, then we assume that there are mosquitoes in the area that are actively transmitting the virus. So then we make the decision to treat the area before humans or animals get sick from this disease.
Do you guys have a specific breed of chicken that you use for this, or is it just kind of like whatever chickens are around in Florida?
We actually order our chickens from a hatchery in Ohio. We prefer to use Americana, otherwise known as Easter egger chickens. They come in a variety of colors. They lay pretty eggs. They're very docile and easy to handle. And at the end of the season, when we're finished using our chickens, we give them away and they're very popular. A lot of people, county citizens, love to get free chickens from us.
So is that like the retirement for these chickens? Once they've done their part at the end of the season, they get to retire to a nice farm in Charlotte County?
Yes, exactly.
How does Greenville use goats?
One of the biggest challenges we had was what we call NNIS, non-native invasive species. Here in South Carolina, that's quite a bit. So that being said, majority of the work required is mechanical, by hand. You could spray to a certain extent. However, we have a lot of waterways and rivers and tributaries running through our parks. And of course, children. We have a lot of children and dogs, four-legged, two-legged, everybody. So we try to be as sustainable and mindful of the ecology as we can. So that being said, going back to the beginning, it was a lot of by hand. We would have all hands days on Thursdays, and I spent a lot of time on hands and knees, and yeah, you could imagine. There's also one of the things I learned moving here: a lot of poison ivy and poison oak. It's prevalent and it hides under a lot of the invasive species. So, being someone who originally is from the Midwest, farmland, one of the things I actually learned growing up is sheep, goats, but those critters love to eat all the invasive and all the things we don't. So I actually started out because I was helping on a project over at the zoo. The Greenville Zoo was part of my department, Parks, Recreation, and Tourism at the time. So I had suggested that possibly our little lazy goats over there could come out and work for a living and help us out. Which the veterinarian at the zoo very politely explained to me that was not going to happen because there's a possibility of cross contamination and bringing diseases back. And it was his opinion that they should live a life of luxury. So those lazy goats just stayed over there. But that got me thinking, and I started looking around and come to find out there were a handful of goats for hire services out here. So we did our bidding process and got our first herd of goats called the Dairy Queens, basically dairy goats. So they were easy to handle. They were used to people. They weren't as skittish. We set it up. They come down. They brought in electric fencing that actually it's clever fencing. It has lower voltage at the bottom, so kids and dogs it's minimal impact on them. It's just very low, a little bit higher. I mean, of course, I can tell you, I tested it. It wasn't horrible or scary, but they bring those in with solar power. So, and then they also have solar powered cameras. So they set up the perimeters. They come in with tarps and create little little tent canopy areas with some hay and bowls of water, and they also bring in a little bit of antacid. Yeah, when they eat too much of especially the poison ivy and some of the privets, they get tummy aches. So they bring those in, they set them all up, they come back and check on them every day, let them go, and it was fantastic. It had everything that we wanted. It was low carbon, no maintenance. They basically eat all that there is to eat. They came running out of the chute, chomping, chomping, chomping. It was awesome. The other advantage to it, of course, is they have almost no methane. So, and everything that they produce for waste is actually perfect fertilizer for us. So it was literally a win-win across the board. Kids loved it. Neighbors came out. Everybody was coming out to. We had to ask people to stop feeding them French fries. That didn't go over well. I do know for a fact, because we did have one escapee that was staff had to chase down. I know for a fact they love fig Newtons, so that's my little trick when I'm trying to get a goat to come over for the camera crew.
What's been like a low-key benefit, something that you didn't expect to be like a win when you started working with goats?
Honestly, it's probably the reaction of the public. I wasn't sure it's in the city, it's right in the middle of the city. I was worried about security, about, people just not wanting farm animals that close to their dogs or their kids or their families. It was the exact opposite. We had so many people come out, and they actually had little goat watch parties. They would just come out with their camp chairs, park and sit and watch the goats, and it was amazing. And I participated in a couple goat watch parties. I'm not gonna lie. I went down there with my Subway sandwich and sat and watched them. And yeah, it's pretty neat. And because of the ecology here, it turned into a learning experience for the kids. The more they're there talking to, especially our staff, about, well, what are they eating? What are they not eating? And what shouldn't they eat? What should they eat? And, getting into a lot of the details and the planting, because after the goats are done, a lot of times those areas, they're right related to our tributaries in particular and waterways. So then we would do live staking events or planting events, and it increased our volunteerism. And I think educationally, I think it was a big opportunity, not just for the kids, but for the citizens and visitors too.
According to Jeff, chickens have played a role in protecting Florida residents for a long time. And for these birds, it's all in a day's work.
It just fits the program. It's a very important part of it, of the surveillance program, one of many that we use to conduct surveillance and determine where their potential diseases may be occurring. So it's all part of the program, but we've been doing it a long time. It's a very common practice, at least within Florida. So I don't know about other places how they do it, but we've been doing it here quite a while.
How do you make sure that the chickens stay safe throughout this entire process?
So they are in secured coops. We actually use what we call chicken cooperators, which are citizens who agree to take part in the program. So we provide the chickens, the coop, the food, everything that they need, basically. And in exchange, they take care of the chickens for us. They get to keep the eggs. They keep an eye on the birds. They'll spoil them rotten, honestly. They'll let them free range. They get to live as happy chickens. We also have some chicken sites at some of our county facilities. So those chickens have usually a 10 by 10 foot dog kennel that they get to free run in. But because of the kennel and the coop, we do everything we can to keep them safe from animal predators. If humans are a concern, then we can always lock it. So we haven't had many issues so far.
What's your experience been working with these goats?
Everybody who knows me on social media knows that I love goats. I really want goats. I can't have goats. But baby goats in pajamas are probably the cutest thing on the whole planet. So for me, this is just a fantastic win. The only negative is if they find the gap in the fence, they're going to take it. They're going to come out, come wandering around because, they're trying to get that bit of green grass that the guy next door hasn't got. So they're a little competitive when it comes to that. And they like to eat my sleeve and buttons. If I spend too much time with them and not watching, they will nibble on my clothes. And I've gone home with a few chew marks on my clothing and lost a button or two. But for the most part, the only other thing that actually I worried about them a little bit during inclement weather. We've had a few storms. We actually had to pull them out the day before the hurricane hit. And they don't swim. The goats don't swim. They don't care for the water. We have to kind of keep an eye on the weather. They get a little lazy when it's too rainy, but for the most part, they're hardy, cool critters, and they don't mind the heat. They don't complain. They're pretty happy, and when we have areas that we don't want them or plants we don't choose to have them go after, we can either fence those off or they have what's called brown paint. So basically, it's an organic material that they don't care for the flavor, and So still a win-win. We can block them off from whatever areas we want.
Is it just like in the summer that you have the goats come out to shape up some landscaping, or do you do it like nearly year round?
When we have growing season, so usually 2 to 3 times a year. We actually just finished it up. We had 2 or 3 areas. We kind of went after things. Some of the things went dormant, and here in about probably May, I'm gonna probably go after 1 or 2 more areas, and then again in the summer. Growing season is a lot of it fall. Whether we get the dormant grass, ivy in particular, it seems to be kind of a year round, and similarly privet. A lot of those things that are going to be popping here in the next several weeks, we're going to be targeting, but try to wait for it to get a little more mature so that we have, good coverage. And we also, in the fall, early fall, when everything starts to pop there too, I try to avoid the extreme heat or the extreme cold. I don't like them out here when we have frost or anything too cold. And I don't really prefer to have them out in that kind of extreme heat either.
If you didn't use goats for this kind of landscaping, tell me the like enormity of the effort you would have to do that you don't have to because there's goats taking care of it.
Right now, I mean, we're talking a couple of acres. We usually do like a quarter acre at a time just because of the fencing and the logistics. And a lot of it is areas that are hard to reach. So that's one of the key factors is the safety of staff, getting staff into some of these locations to do the removal. But it's weed whipping, it is front loaders, mini X coming in with heavy equipment, and then of course all the things we need to do to support the heavy equipment to get it there to make sure that we're not doing too much damage to the environment as we're trying to get our equipment down there. Same thing, chainsaws, the noise pollution, the amount of fuel, the amount of staff, the wear and tear on the staff. As we all know, all the physical labor we do it takes a toll, but when you're out in the extreme environments and to be honest, downtime, having staff out there pulling poison ivy and poison oak, inevitably we've got a handful that come back just covered in fabulous rashes. And the other issue is pest control. We have snakes out here. We have a lot of wasp nests, a lot of bees, and things that the staff can encounter that the goats don't seem to have the same issues with.
What do you wish the public knew about the work that you do?
Basically, when the public thinks of mosquito control, they think pesticide. Like all we do is we spray pesticide, but there's a lot of behind the scenes things, including the chickens. And we actually, when we do outreach, we bring a sentinel chicken with us, and that gets the conversation started. Like a lot of our own people within our county have no idea what we do and why they don't even know we have chickens or have this program. So it's a great way to get that conversation started and show them that there's a lot of behind the scenes and science to this to help keep them safe. And we do see presence of these diseases every year. So it's important to remind them that yes, West Nile is a very common thing still. It's still being carried by our mosquitoes. It's brought in by migratory birds. It's not something we can eliminate, but it's definitely something we can watch for.
Is there anything like that you wish the community knew about this goats program?
Careful not to feed them, and not to get too close to them. But I think for the most part, they're available for things like this. That we have those opportunities for natural methods that are sustainable that you can use year round, and that isn't putting chemicals or non-environmentally friendly options. I think that's always a big plus and a big win for anything educational and any future, especially related to parks and landscaping. I think that's every opportunity we have to explore that and teach that is a win.
Are there other animals that can be used as like a sentinel program? Like, are there other like dead-end hosts that could be used beyond chickens?
There are other dead-end hosts, including humans and horses. However, triple E, which is Eastern equine encephalitis, can be deadly to horses if they're not vaccinated. And obviously humans could get sick as well. So chickens are the most effective sentinel animal.
What's the process of drawing blood from a chicken like? Is that stressful for the bird?
No, not really. So I believe firmly in treating the chickens with respect, with care, being calm around them. So we have 2 people that we use. One person will retrieve the chicken, and they lay the chicken basically on a table and hold them by their feet and just, hold them in place and, pet them, talk to them if they want to. And the other person gets them ready. So basically, the blood is drawn from the wing vein. That's how we do it. So you stretch the wing out, you prep the site, you take the blood sample, and the chickens actually become used to it. They're really good patients, better than humans, probably. So we'll also give them treats sometimes afterwards as a reward. So we do treat them very kind. That's another thing that people are concerned about, that they think that they're afraid that we just use these as lab animals, test animals, but that couldn't be further from the truth. They live a very good life.
Do you guys use any other animals in any other ways in, public works in Charlotte County, or are you firmly chicken people?
Chicken's the primary, for that part of the program. As I said earlier, the surveillance, that really, and what I wanted to add earlier when you said, asked about, what the community can expect is, we're generally in the community every day anyway, conducting different levels of surveillance. So we're aware of where the mosquito activity is 95% of the time. So when the people call in and ask for service, we generally already know that there's an issue in that area. The chickens are certainly a big part of it, more so for the disease prevention part, but they also just let us know, what the activity levels are in certain areas of the county. So that allows us to do the daily response plan that we do. There's really no set schedule. And that's one of the things that people don't understand is they haven't seen us out in the community. They may say, well, when are we on the schedule? And the short answer is there really is no set schedule. It's all done on a day-to-day basis based upon the surveillance activity that we see, and with the help, obviously, of the sentinel chickens, more specifically looking to prevent diseases.
I guess also going back to your question, if any other animals are used, technically there's grass carp, which is part of the aquatic program. So the grass carp will help.
And the mosquito fish as well, the gambusia. It's a native fish here to Florida. It's a small minnow that has adapted to eating mosquito larvae in small stagnant pools or ponds. So that's another tool that we have to use in the arsenal, so to speak, to attach. It's a biological control for mosquito larvae. So that would be fit in that category as well. Mosquito fish are great because they reproduce rapidly. They're adaptable to a lot of different environments. Obviously, they're kind of small, so you don't want to release them into an area where there's larger fish and then they become prey. So we do have to evaluate when people do requests for mosquito fish. Like I said, it's typically a small pond or temporary, semi-permanent body of water, or an abandoned pool maybe. But there really can't be any other fish in there that would be predators to them.
So are you guys also the ones that are introducing those fish into the small bodies of water?
Yeah, we actually rear these fish. They're native in the local waterways naturally. So if people have like established ponds and canals, they probably already have the fish. They're little minnows basically. But we do raise them ourselves. And if people have any ornamental ponds or rain barrels, or if there's a situation like an area dries back during the dry season and then floods during our rainy season, sometimes we'll release the fish there as well, and they're a great biocontrol.
What advice would you give for maybe a parks manager who wants to use goats but just like needs to get some buy-in or needs more information before they do? Like, what would you tell some other parks manager who wants to add goats to their arsenal?
I would say do it. First and foremost, find a small herd in your area. 9 times out of 10, they've already been doing it for some municipality. But I mean, I know in California that that's where I was working before I moved here. They had been using it to clear out underbrush for wildfires to mitigate some of the wildfire danger there. So hey, look around, see what, check around, check with your colleagues, your peers, see who else has been using them and what type of success they've had. And then honestly, I think the best way is to test it. You can do a small herd. You can get anywhere from 2 to 4 up to 30, 60, just pick your own test runs and, show if you can calculate, if you can use the work order system to calculate how much time and, material, labor, all that you're spending now compared to how much per square acre, I think you'll be surprised. The return of investment is there. And it's a win-win, for your social media crew, your marketing team, your communications team. They love it. City councils love a photo op, and that's always going to be a win-win too. Honestly, it's really hard to come out with any reason not to do it. I think it's definitely worth everybody just giving it a try. And I also recommend carrying Big Newtons in your work truck, and we have lassos too, by the way, and little collars in case they get out.
Give me like a fun fact that I can pull out at a party about goats.
They will eat anything, so that's not a fun fact. That's a scary part. That's the only other thing that I would say is you kind of walk your area before you bring them in. I did watch one of them eat a plastic bottle one time. That was not fun. Trying to stop a goat once they start eating, I don't recommend that. That's a no-no. And they climb trees. That's probably my fun fact. Those little things, they don't jump well. I don't know why because they're not mountain goats. I have to be reminded of that because it's nothing graceful about a goat. I can just tell you, there's no grace involved in what they do, but they can get up them trees. They can stand up on them, climb. They're pretty creative. And the fact that they have no methane, I didn't know that. That's something I learned when we got out here. The way they interact is interesting to me. They definitely have their own social dynamics. You got a little bully, you got the little mean girl, you got the one ramming the head on everything. It's just, I love the dynamics of watching them when they're out and about. The other thing is they don't eat wildlife, they don't eat insects, and they don't eat birds' nests. So the habitats are all safe. That's another piece that I really like because we, spend a lot of time trying to conserve the habitat and preserve it. So that's one of the things they will naturally not do.
Programs like this sort of like blur the line between public works and public health. What's like so special about working in this specific area that kind of like blends the line? Like, why do you like doing this kind of work?
Mosquito control is such a niche program. Our primary goal is public health, but because we're within public works, we work under the public works umbrella. So we're just a part of it. But we work closely with them. Like some of our chicken sites are at public works facilities, and the guys there will help care for the chickens for us. They've even poured the concrete pads for us, to make the kennel area. So we've definitely worked together a lot on it.
It ties in well, not so much the public health, but the aquatic weed. We also do aquatic weed work here, and that's a big part of public works as far as the water conveyance. Moving storm water from point A to point B, as you can imagine in Florida with tropical weather systems. That's a big part of what we do as well is keep the water flowing by limiting non-native vegetation through a lot of the waterways throughout the county. We're located on rivers and harbors, so we have a lot of water around us and within the county that we need to keep moving.
What's on the horizon for like a Sentinel chicken program? Is there like a next step that you guys are looking at, either just in like aquatic weed control in general or like mosquito control in general, that you guys are looking forward to?
There's always new and emerging technologies, but as far as using the chickens as we do now, it's probably going to remain status quo. Yeah, there are other technologies like the state of California will actually prick the comb of the chicken and do like a blot sample on a piece of paper that way, so they don't actually draw blood from the wing like we do here in Florida. However, our Department of Health is set up, their lab is set up to do that serum testing. So that's the way they want to stay as far as that goes.
Is there anything that I'm not asking that you're like, this is a cool point that I want people to know about my chickens?
We get to keep the eggs. That's always a bonus.
Once the chickens have, West Nile virus or the equine encephalitis, is there any danger to people eating those eggs? Or
yeah, that's a really good question. And no, the answer is no. The chickens are totally safe. Once they do test positive, they will always test positive. We have to replace that chicken with a new chicken. So we have like a sterile flock at our facility, where we keep all of we call them sterile chickens, but basically they're kept in a large coop that has mosquito screened windows, so they aren't exposed to the outside mosquito populations. So when we replace a chicken, then she's known as sterile, and then the other one can retire and live a happy life. The eggs are safe. Unfortunately, if somebody wants to eat the chicken, they can if they decide to do so. But yeah, the virus dies with them.
Thank you for listening to Public Works Radio, the official voice of the American Public Works Association. And a special thank you to today's guests, Beth Kovach, Jeff Profit, and Stacey Schaefer. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts, rate it, review it, and forward it along to a friend. And don't be shy about dropping us a note over at podcast@apwa.org so we can hear your feedback directly. We'll catch you next time.